Michael Jackson believed he was standing on the edge of one of the greatest moments of his career. After years away from the concert stage, he was preparing to return before thousands of fans with a series of performances that would remind the world why he was known as the King of Pop. Every rehearsal, every meeting, and every creative decision centered on a single goal, making this as it the most unforgettable show he had ever produced. At the time, cameras followed nearly every step of the preparation process. They captured rehearsals, production meetings, conversations with dancers, musicians, and designers, all intended to document the creation of a spectacular concert experience. Nobody realized these recordings would later become something far more emotional. Instead of documenting a comeback, they would preserve the final weeks of Michael Jackson's life. Looking back today, those rehearsals carry an entirely different meaning. What once appeared to be ordinary planning sessions have become priceless moments, offering a rare glimpse into Michael's dedication, creativity, and relentless pursuit of perfection during the last chapter of his remarkable life. As production moved forward, Michael remained deeply involved in every aspect of the show. Rather than leaving decisions to producers or directors, he personally reviewed stage concepts, visual effects, costumes, choreography, and musical arrangements. Nothing was considered too small for his attention. Every detail had to contribute to the larger vision he imagined in his mind. During creative meetings, Michael carefully studied animations, lighting effects, and projected visuals that would accompany each performance. He listened attentively as designers explained new ideas before offering thoughtful suggestions of his own. Sometimes he approved a concept immediately. Other times, he asked for adjustments, believing even minor changes could dramatically improve the audience's experience. His enthusiasm was obvious. When one visual sequence impressed him, he smiled and praised the work before suggesting subtle refinements. He wanted every transition to feel natural and every image to support the emotional impact of the music. His excitement reflected someone completely invested in building something extraordinary. Those meetings reveal an important truth about Michael Jackson. He wasn't simply a performer who appeared on stage once everything was finished. He was actively shaping every creative element long before the first ticket holder ever entered the arena. Music remained at the center of everything. During rehearsals with the band, Michael listened with remarkable concentration. He paid close attention to individual instruments, vocal harmonies, timing, and overall sound quality. Whenever something didn't match the way he imagined it, he politely stopped the performance and explained exactly what needed to change. Rather than accepting an approximation, he wanted the songs to sound exactly as audiences remembered them from the original recordings. He frequently reminded the musicians that the audience expected to hear familiar arrangements. Every beat, every note, and every rhythm mattered because millions of fans had lived with those songs for decades. His goal wasn't simply to perform the music, it was to recreate the emotional experience people associated with it. The atmosphere during rehearsals was surprisingly relaxed despite the enormous pressure surrounding the production. Michael joked with members of the band, laughed during conversations, and encouraged collaboration whenever possible. Even while maintaining incredibly high standards, he created an environment where people felt comfortable sharing ideas. Crew members responded with equal respect, understanding they were participating in something historic. As rehearsals continued, dancers practiced increasingly complex routines while technicians synchronized lighting cues, stage mechanics, and video effects. Every department worked simultaneously, each relying on the others to transform individual pieces into one seamless production. The entire team believed opening night was approaching exactly as planned. Day after day, the show became more polished. Songs flowed smoothly from one performance to another. Choreography grew sharper. Visual effects became more refined. Each rehearsal suggested that it was evolving into the spectacular comeback everyone expected. Michael himself appeared energized by the creative process. Whether discussing stage design, adjusting dance sequences, or fine-tuning musical arrangements, he remained fully engaged. Watching these rehearsals today is both inspiring and heartbreaking. Viewers know something the people inside those rehearsal halls could never have imagined. While everyone around Michael focused on preparing for opening night, history was quietly moving toward a completely different ending. The rehearsals now represent some of the final recordings of Michael doing what he loved most, creating music and preparing to perform. As production advanced, another side of Michael slowly emerged, one invisible to most people involved in the rehearsals. Away from cameras documenting the concert, a private audio recording captured a very different version of the legendary performer. His voice sounded noticeably slower. His speech appeared unusually weak. The energetic confidence visible during rehearsals seemed absent. For many who later heard the recording, it revealed a level of vulnerability that contrasted sharply with the determined artist seen preparing for this is it. In that conversation, Michael reflected on children and the importance they held in his life. He spoke emotionally about feeling connected to young people because he believed he had lost much of his own childhood. His words carried genuine sadness, expressing compassion for children experiencing pain and hardship. The recording eventually falls quiet for several moments. Someone nearby asks whether Michael is feeling all right. His response comes softly, lacking the strength fans had grown accustomed to hearing throughout his career. Today, that recording is difficult for many listeners. It captures one of the last known moments in which Michael's voice was privately recorded before everything changed forever. While those conversations remained unknown to the public, rehearsals continued as scheduled. Crew members focused on perfecting the production. Musicians refined their performances. Dancers practiced endlessly. Everyone remained convinced they were only days away from opening one of the most anticipated concert series in entertainment history. No one realized they were unknowingly participating in Michael Jackson's final rehearsals. Then, everything changed. On the morning of June 25th, an emergency unfolded inside Michael's home. A frantic call was placed to emergency dispatchers requesting immediate medical assistance. The caller explained that a 50-year-old man was unconscious and not breathing. As dispatchers calmly gathered information, they instructed those inside the house to move Michael onto the floor so CPR could be performed more effectively. The urgency in the caller's voice was unmistakable. Questions came rapidly. Was he breathing? Was he conscious? Who was with him? The caller explained that a personal doctor was already present, attempting resuscitation efforts, but Michael remained unresponsive. Emergency personnel assured those inside the home that help was already on the way. Within minutes, paramedics raced toward the residence, unaware they were responding to one of the most significant medical emergencies in modern entertainment history. As paramedics rushed toward the Carrollwood residence, no one outside the home understood the seriousness of the situation. Inside, however, every second had become critical. The medical team immediately began working to save Michael Jackson, while those closest to him watched helplessly as the emergency unfolded. Despite every effort, the outcome would soon become one of the most heartbreaking moments in music history. Later that afternoon, Michael Jackson was pronounced dead at the age of 50. For a brief period, the news remained uncertain. Reports first surfaced that the singer had been rushed to the hospital after suffering cardiac arrest. Television networks interrupted regular programming, while radio stations and online news outlets scrambled to confirm the developing story. Then came the announcement millions of people feared. The king of pop was gone. Within minutes, the news spread around the globe. Fans gathered outside UCLA Medical Center, many refusing to believe what they had just heard. Others stood silently, holding photographs, flowers, and candles while struggling to process the unimaginable loss. Television crews broadcast live as crowds continued to grow throughout the day. Around the world, people watched in disbelief as one of the most influential entertainers in modern history was mourned by millions. Yet while fans were grieving publicly, investigators had already begun asking difficult questions about what had happened inside Michael's home earlier that morning. Authorities carefully reconstructed the timeline, interviewing witnesses and collecting evidence to determine exactly how the emergency unfolded. One of the first emergency responders to testify later in court was the lead Los Angeles firefighter-paramedic who answered the call that day. He described arriving at the Carrollwood residence after receiving a dispatch concerning a 50-year-old man suffering cardiac arrest. Security personnel directed the emergency crew upstairs immediately. When they entered the bedroom, the paramedic noticed several unusual details. A doctor was already present. Medical equipment, including oxygen tanks and intravenous supplies, was visible inside the room. Those observations immediately suggested that significant medical treatment had already been taking place before emergency services arrived. The rescue team quickly assumed responsibility for life-saving efforts. CPR continued while additional equipment was connected to monitor Michael's condition. When asked later about the heart monitor, the paramedic explained that it displayed asystole, a flat line indicating no detectable electrical activity. Despite every medical procedure performed inside the home and during transport, Michael could not be revived. As investigators continued building the timeline, prosecutors called additional witnesses who had been close to Michael that morning. Among them was his longtime personal assistant. He testified about receiving an urgent voicemail from Dr. Conrad Murray shortly before noon. According to his testimony, the message repeatedly urged him to call back immediately. When he returned the call, he expected to receive instructions to contact emergency services. Instead, he testified that he was simply told to come to the house because Michael had experienced what was described as a bad reaction. He stated that he was never instructed to dial 911. By the time he reached the residence, paramedics were already carrying Michael down the staircase on a stretcher. He remembered seeing Dr. Murray near the ambulance speaking with emergency personnel as they prepared to leave for the hospital. That testimony became another important piece of the prosecution's effort to establish the sequence of events. The courtroom also heard testimony from other witnesses who had been inside the home during those critical moments. Michael's longtime security chief described entering the bedroom after being summoned upstairs. According to his testimony, Dr. Murray appeared visibly nervous while performing CPR. He recalled seeing Michael lying motionless with his eyes partially open and his mouth slightly open. When asked